been to a spa before, you might be aware of something called a mud bath. That's where they pack your skin with mud and clay and dirt to suck out all of the toxins and give you a good exfoliation. Well, a mad bath is very similar to that, except it's a cleansing process that's done on the inside. It's a way of detoxifying yourself from the inside out, clearing out negative emotions and patterns and energies that no longer serve who you are capable of being at this time. They're patterns that interrupt your ability to be fully expressed as your best self in the highest vibrational version of who you really are. I'm Jennifer Allie Kern, and what we're talking about in this video is how to do a mad bath for yourself so you can get a nice, good spiritual cleanse on the inside and get your energy really refreshed. It's almost like a spiritual spring cleaning. Now, before I get into the process of talking about a mud bath, I just want to say that there are a lot of different ways to cleanse yourself from negativity. People process things in all sorts of different ways. You can channel that negativity into creative projects. Some people like to do it through writing. Some people like to do it through physical body movement. So this is just one option of how to do it, but it's one that I think is very potent because of the kind of intention and awareness that you bring to the process. So to get started with your mud bath, you're going to want to get yourself set up in a physical space that feels really comfortable to you. I'm sitting in my Metropolitan chair, which has a good solid base here. I've got a little cushion up under my bum to get my hips elevated so I can get some good posture. I tend to like to have a little bit of water or a cup of tea nearby, and a blanket, anything that makes you feel comfy and cozy for you. So you want your environment to be set up to support you. The other thing in terms of your environment is if there are other people around, you want to let them know what you're up to so that they can give you some privacy. This is something that's a very private process that you might not want people watching you do it. At least I wouldn't. If you live in close proximity with neighbors, like an apartment or a condo, you might want to have some ambient music turned on to be kind of occupying the space and absorbing some of that energy and what might come out as sound effects when you do your mad bath. I will talk about that in a second. But other things that you might want to have available are headphones. I usually like to put in my headphones and I have them synced up with my phone. And on my phone, I will tend to go into an app that I like, or I will use YouTube to set ambient music. Usually I'll use a solfeggio tones or binaural beats or something like that to just put myself in a brainwave state that will slow things down so that I can get into a good meditative zone as I go into the process. Other times, I like to have a guided imagery. And if you're new to meditating, that might be a nice way to start, is through a guided imagery where someone verbally leads you through the process. I'm going to share a few of the guided imagery meditations that I like with you on social media, so you can keep an eye out for that, predominantly on Facebook. And that would be a really, really great tool. Like I said, especially if meditation is something that's new to you. Once you have your environment set up and you're all comfy and cozy and snuggled in, and you're sure that you've got some privacy, you're going to want to open the process with an opening invocation. And that's basically setting the intention for yourself of what you're here to do with this time, and that you're going to be releasing certain negative energy. And that can be energy that you determine in advance what it is you want to focus on. For example, shame, it could be passiveness, it could be anger, it could be anxiety, it could be any kind of negative energy that you want to release. So you set the intention that that's what this is for, and that you're going to want to pull in the positive energy that you're going to use to replace it once that stuff is cleared out. So you're already going into this experience knowing what your goal is. Once you've made that declaration, you can go right into that meditative state. So again, with your music or the guided imagery, either one, whatever works for you, let yourself go into that. Now, what I want to say about this piece is when you're in that zone of doing the inner cleansing what you're doing is you're letting the emotions come up. So you're letting that negativity kind of present itself to you. And I'm making this body movement because it's almost like it's something that's stored in you. Most people tend to store negative emotion in the gut. They can do it in their intestines. Sometimes they hold it in the solar plexus, in the stomach area, in the heart and chest area, up into the throat. That's generally the region where we will store negative emotion. So that starts to bubble up. It's almost like it gets released from your cells. And when that happens, it's going to have an impact on you. It can be painful, it can be upsetting. Everybody has a different experience of it. So whatever comes up for you is perfectly fine. You can trust that it's part of the process. But you might notice that your body starts to move with it. So the main thing to do with that is keep your butt in place. Your body's going to want to move. So sometimes I will find that I'll be doing some air punching. Sometimes I'll arch my back. Sometimes I'll just grip the chair like this to kind of let my body shake it out. Sometimes I will be very sexy and sophisticated and I'll actually like start grunting. Sometimes I'll start spitting. I'll do some like deep breaths, almost like pushing the energy out. Everybody's different, but it's good to have physical space around you where you're not going to be hitting anything, because obviously you don't need to bring anything in your environment. So the idea with this and keeping your butt in place is that you're not getting up and like punching a pillow or doing something that's going to have contact with other things, because in some cases that can actually exacerbate the energy and make it stronger. And that's not the goal here. The goal here is to let you feel it so it can be released. Once an emotion is processed, it's gone. But when we harbor it and it gets packed in there, it's almost like cholesterol. It builds and builds and builds and builds like an internal like spiritual plaque. And so what we're doing is gradually kind of chafing away at that, letting that release. And when that process is then complete, that's when you can start to positive energies. One thing to say about this is the body moving is a very, very natural part of this process. When an animal out in the wilderness is being chased by a predator, they have the release of adrenaline in their system, they run. Once they're in the place where they're back in safety and they're calmed down and they didn't get eaten, they'll shake. They shake to disperse that energy and to let the body come back into balance. So that kind of shaking and body movement is very natural. So you can embrace it and let your body do what it needs to do. Another thing that's important to be aware of in this process, this is not meant to be a mental process. This is not about spinning and cycling drama in your mind. This is about focusing your awareness into your body and letting come to mind anything that is having you be connected with the pain that you're releasing, but without drumming up the drama. That means not reliving arguments, not replaying scenarios. That's not what we're doing. You want your internal focus and attention to be what's happening in your body. You might see colors, you might see different images in your mind's eye. This is all okay. It's part of the process. It's part of how your imagination actually supports you in this release. So it's okay to embrace those things too. But again, this is not about spinning in drama, because that keeps you focused from the neck up. And this practice is about focusing from the neck down, tuning into the harbored energy to release it. So that's an important distinction to make here. That kind of focus is what actually lets you feel it to let it go. Once everything has subsided and you feel like the arc of the experience has landed, you'll start with a building up of the energy, and then it'll kind of peak and then come down into a moment where you feel like there's a little bit of resolve, you're coming back into balance. That's when you want to be intentional about starting to pull in the energies that you want to replace it with. So that could be love, it could be gratitude, it could be joy, it might just be acceptance. It might just be letting yourself settle into calm. That's perfectly fine too. You don't have to get all the way up into happy, happy, joy, joy. It might be too far of a leap. But even just coming into a space of hope, courage, settledness, anything, balance, anything along those lines is absolutely perfect. And then you can start setting the intention of, okay, let me be filled with more love. Let me be filled with peace. And even if you don't totally get there during the session, that's fine. The intention is there, and those energies will come in the moments when you're ready to receive them. Once all of that has subsided and you're ready to be complete, you can close the session with a closing declaration. And the declaration is basically saying, making the strong statement that these energies have been released permanently. They're no longer a part of your energetic being, spiritual, mental, emotional, or physical, and that you have completed the integration of the new energies that you want to draw in. I will be sharing with you an opening invocation and a closing declaration that you can use as a model. So you can see if you like that language, you can use it for yourself. It's something that I use, and you can try it and see if it works for you. After everything is all said and done, you want to take care of yourself. Take care of yourself by sleeping. You might be very tired after this process. In fact, sometimes it's good to do this before bedtime, so you can just go right to bed, take your conscious brain offline, and let your subconscious go to work on integrating the changes that have taken place in the mad bath process. You might be somebody who likes to move. So if you want to get up and move your body, just move around, do some stretching, do some exercise, that's a great thing to do after this process. Or if writing is a way that helps you integrate things, you can do that too. Whatever feels right to you to take care of yourself afterwards is the perfect thing, and it might be different each day. The last thing to mention about this whole mad bath process is that we're working with very subtle shifts and changes here. So what's getting cleared is just the layer within you that's ready to be cleared at that time. So doing the mad bath process once might get you some good results, but when you do a series of them, especially over a concentrated period of time, that's where you're going to see the biggest difference. It does take some time for these shifts and changes to really be fully integrated into your system, so be patient with yourself. There's no need for frustration or discouragement in this process. It is a process. This is why I've personally committed to 40 days of mad baths, knowing that some days I go really deep and other days they're just a little bit more on the surface. Every single time it's different, and just trusting the process, because this ultimately is a soul guided process. Your soul knows exactly what it needs at this time for you to go from where you have been operating up to the next vibrational level of who you are capable of being, the next best version of you at this time in your life. So you can trust the process and know that you are getting exactly what you need every time you do your mud bath. So I hope this video is helpful for you to give you an idea of how that process goes. When you join the March Madless Challenge, you can also get your free mad bath tips, which kind of encapsulates everything that I have just gone through here. Like I said, I will also be sharing other meditations. I will be sharing the opening invocation and closing declaration. So those are resources that you can keep an eye out for on social media as well. Thank you so much for joining me in this process, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Ciao.